An honest review about Latuda. Okay, here it goes. My honest review about Latuda. Okay, so I have been putting this video off for a long time and not really wanting to make it because I feel like I don't want to scare anybody off from taking Latuda or antipsychotic medications or that kind of thing. But I had a friend who was really curious and asked me to go ahead and make the video, so I'm doing it for her and for you and for anyone interested in hearing my personal experience with the drug Latuda. So that being said, I'm not a doctor. All I am is a patient who's been on a lot of different antipsychotic medications, and Latuda is the only one that works for me. Now, that's not to say it's not without its side effects. It definitely has some pretty severe side effects. I do also want to say that every medication affects every individual person differently. And just because this is my body's reaction to Latuda and my experience does not mean that it'll be your experience, or that it'll work for you, or that it won't work for you, or that you'll have the same side effects. So this video is just for anyone curious with my personal experience with antipsychotics and why I choose to take Latuda over everything that I've been on. So here we go. Number 1. For me, I have to be on medication. I have to. It's not a choice. And when I say it's not a choice, I mean it's not a choice. It means if I don't take my medication, I become psychotic and I end up in the mental hospital. And if I don't want to take my medicine in the mental hospital, they tie me down and inject me with it against my will. So I don't really have a choice. Either I be a good girl and take my pills, or I'm going to be hospitalized and injected. So when people say, oh, maybe someday you'll get off your medicine, or God will heal you and you don't have to take medicine. Okay, I understand that everyone who says those kind of things has good intentions, but they honestly don't understand. Do you want me to be in the mental hospital? Do you want me to be injected with needles to take this medication? I don't have a choice. So I do not have a choice to take antipsychotic medications. In a perfect world, if everything went my way, I would be mentally healthy, my brain would function right without medications. But that's not the reality that I live in. In my reality, my brain needs medication. Just like if you had a heart problem, your heart's going to need some medication. If you have diabetes, you need insulin. It's the same kind of idea. The brain is an organ, and when that organ is not working right, sometimes medical intervention is needed and medication is needed. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody, okay, because I'm not, but there's some important things to know about side effects to antipsychotic medication. These are brain-altering medications that can cause changes in your thinking and in your behavior. Okay, so people don't like to talk about it, but when you take antipsychotic medications, you have to be aware of your thinking and if your behaviors and thinking change or get worse. So I was on a medication before that was an antipsychotic called risperidone, and it actually made me have homicidal thoughts, right? And these thoughts would just enter my head, and I'd have graphic nightmares, and I couldn't tell if I was awake or asleep or what was really going on, and it was absolutely terrifying. So that's the worst antipsychotic that affected me that way. Okay, so then the rest of the antipsychotics that I was on made me incredibly suicidal. And on Geodone, I actually attempted suicide. I'm not trying to review other antipsychotic medications right now. I'm trying to review Latuda. So what I'm saying, though, is that I've had extremely horrific side effects to all the other antipsychotics that I have been on. So that means I had homicidal thoughts on one antipsychotic. The other antipsychotics made me suicidal, And like lithium did nothing for me except give me totally extreme diarrhea. So I couldn't leave the bathroom for days and days, and they left me on it for weeks. And the diarrhea didn't stop, and I was just glued to the toilet the whole time, being incredibly, incredibly sick. I don't remember if I had suicidal thoughts on lithium or not, because I was so massively having diarrhea that I couldn't even function. So, eventually they took me off of lithium. When I was on Seroquel, that was trippy. I started hearing like there was a control room in my brain, and I could hear people that I know sending me controls to my brain, and I thought I could telepathically hear other people, their thoughts in their head, and I was like hearing the voices like of these people that I knew telling me what to do, and like they're in a control room controlling me. And then I looked at the wall, and the wall's like squishing and stuff. Okay, so Geodone, I tried to kill myself. Seroquel, I heard stuff. Risperidone, I was homicidal. All the other ones just made me suicidal. And they all made me more psychotic. So I can't say that I understand why that would be the case. So back to Latuda. I do not have homicidal thoughts on Latuda, because risperidone was the only medication that I've ever been on that I had those kind of thoughts. On Latuda, I do not feel suicidal, and that stopped 3 days, only 3 days after starting Latuda, all suicidal thoughts was gone. Now, once in a while, I'd have the idea, like, should I kill myself? Like, that kind of thing, but it was me thinking it and not constantly being bombarded with suicidal thoughts. I'll make another video someday about what it's like to have suicidal thoughts because of a medication, and it's excruciatingly horrible. So Latuda, I don't have any of that. I don't ever hear stuff. On Latuda, I don't hear stuff. I shouldn't lie though, because when I get really upset, I hear cop sirens in my head, and I have to sit and hold my head and wait for it to go away. On Latuda, I don't have severe side effects anymore from tardive dyskinesia or akathisia. Okay, but when I first started taking Latuda, my lips would go like that all the time, right? And on the different antipsychotics that I'm on, I always have that. And so the doctor said, well, you don't really have a choice because you're going to be on an antipsychotic. So Latuda is the one that you're not wanting to kill yourself on. So you'll have to get used to the lip movement. Lucky for me, after 2 years of taking it, the lip movement is totally gone. Only once in a while, you can see my lips move on their own, but it's not noticeable, I don't think, to most people. My daughter notices. So my daughter still notices the lip movement from time to time, and she jokes and says it's goldfish kisses, because it's okay, but it has gotten significantly better. I still have the akathisia in my legs, so how I deal with that is I take my medicine right before I go to sleep. That way I can sleep through the worst part of the akathisia. If for some reason I stay up late after taking it, or I have to take it early or something like that, then I can't sleep because my legs move uncontrollably. And it's a subtle movement now. It used to be really violent moving. But it is a weird thing to sit in your doctor's office and say you have leg movement or lip movement and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, okay, well, you don't have a choice. You still have to be on your medicine. So that's a little hard for me to understand sometimes. But I honestly, I do not have a choice. So the longer I've been on Latuda, the less lip movement that I have, and the less akathisia I have. Now, akathisia, I didn't really explain that. That's when your legs convulse and twitch on their own without you moving them. Just like the lip movement, my lips would actually move like that constantly. Even when I'm talking, they'd pucker like that. and it was really embarrassing to be around people because they're like, what is she doing? It was really, really severe when I started Latuda, and over time, it got better. Now, there is a side effect that people don't like to talk about with any antipsychotic medication, and that's sexual dysfunction. On every antipsychotic that I have been on, I have had severe sexual dysfunction. And it's embarrassing, and it's something that has gotten kind of better the longer I've been on Latuda, but I still have it. I have not had an orgasm for like 6 years. For 6 years, I've been on antipsychotic medication, and the only time I had an orgasm is when I was off the antipsychotic medication briefly until I went nuts and was in the mental hospital. And guess what? In the mental hospital, you can't have sex either. So that's like major sexual dysfunction, to be locked up and you can't ever do it, right? So no wonder people are crazy. And you have a roommate, so you definitely can't do nothing. Anyway, the point is that I experience no orgasm on any antipsychotic. So for me, the antipsychotic that has the least sexual side effect for my body is Latuda. I cannot have an orgasm. It's not going to happen. I've talked to my doctors, I've talked to my pharmacist, and my pharmacist explained that I have positive psychosis, which feels really good and like you're high kind of when you have the positive psychosis. And the antipsychotic Latuda is blocking those pleasure sensors in the brain, and it also blocks the feelings that are associated with sexual intercourse and orgasm. So I still have sex. I'm married, so I still have sex. I still enjoy sex, like the closeness and the loving someone and expressing it and pleasing someone else. But as for me, I'm like sexually dead. So if you ever wonder what's wrong with me or why I'm crazy, it's because I haven't had an orgasm in like 6 years. Okay, so give me a break. Anybody would be totally insane after that, and it's frustrating and embarrassing and sad, and I've cried, and I felt like, how can I be in my mid-30s and I'm sexually dead already? And it's a horrible death of part of who you are. And I don't do drugs, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything bad. Like my psychiatrist said, my only vice in life that got me through was being in love and having a sexual relationship with someone, and now I get no pleasure at all. So I used to drink Diet Mountain Dew and get it cold and take a drink and go, that's refreshing. And yeah, that's about as sexual pleasure as I get. Yeah, that's refreshing. So just to give you some context, yeah, I can't orgasm at all. Like, not gonna happen. So that's all being blocked in my brain. So I get a little rush, like, you know, when you go to sit down on the couch with a guy to make out and you're like, oh, I'm going to make out, it's going to be awesome. And you get that little initial excitement or rush. That's all I get. It doesn't go anywhere else. Yeah, I have sex. Yeah, I have intercourse. Yeah, it's great because I love him, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, I don't have an orgasm. I don't feel any sensation. Once in a while, maybe a little bit, kind of, but not really. So it's been really hard on me, feeling like I'm a failure, or that part of me is dead, or, you know, it's something I've had to mourn and come to terms with. Now, to give it even more context, my body responds to being touched and having sex, right? Like, I can physically have sex. It's just the pleasure sensors in my brain are blocked, so I don't get any pleasure from it like a normal person would. But there's other antipsychotics that I've been on that I can't even respond to the touch. I can't even have sex. Like, everything, my body is so completely dead that it's not possible for me to have sex. My body doesn't get ready. My body doesn't respond. I can't have sex. Now, it sounds weird when I say, like, my body respond versus getting the pleasure sensors, right? So I do have sex. I think I have a healthy sex life for whatever it's worth. The only thing is that I receive no climax, no nothing. Now, I don't know if you needed all that information, right, about all that personal stuff about me, but I don't know who else is going online about this medication and talking about it. And I'm not a guy, so I don't know exactly what happens to guys, if they can still have sex or not, or whatever. But I know for me, out of all the antipsychotics I've been on, I'm thankful to be on a low dose of Latuda, because at least physically I can have sex. And my body is, my brain doesn't register pleasure, right, or any kind of sexual feeling. It has gotten better the longer that I've been on Latuda, but it's still really bad. It's still like really, really, really bad. So now enough about me. If you have problems, maybe you can write down on how you've dealt with it in the comments, and if anything helped you, but nothing has helped me. And like I said, I don't have a choice to be on medicine or not. So it's just be on the medicine for me that accomplishes the job to make me not psychotic and doesn't make me suicidal. And I do not have suicidal thoughts on Latuda. So that's the only reason that I'm on it, is because it works. And the side effects I have are devastating for me, but they're not life-threatening. Like on the other antipsychotics I've been on, like Geodone and stuff, the suicidal stuff was so bad that it actually pushed me to attempt suicide. So these side effects make me really, really sad. Like, I feel really, really sad that I'm going to have to be on Latuda the rest of my life, and that means for the rest of my life, I'll never have an orgasm. That's really, really sad that magical part of my life, being a sexual person and having sexual feelings and desires and all that kind of stuff, that's over for me. I feel like I'm way too young to have to deal with this, and it's really, really unfair. But I guess that's what I get for being mentally ill, is the only thing that brought me pleasure in my life is over. And it's really emotionally hard to deal with that, and it's really emotionally hard to get help for that, because there's nothing anybody can do. And then on top of that, I've always had male psychiatrists and therapists, and they don't really understand anyway how bad it is. Okay, let's try to be happy about Latuda. I've been out of the mental hospital successfully for 2 years now. All 2 years, haven't had any, sexual anything. But on the other medicines, I didn't either. And on the other medicines, it was much worse than Latuda. So thank God I can have sex. And thank God I'm out of the mental hospital. Because when you're in the mental hospital, you definitely can't have sex. Unless you're like that one girl who did, and that was creepy. Okay, anyway. The point is that the mental hospital is a very extremely sexually frustrating place. And so is being on antipsychotic medication. So if you're mentally ill, good luck with your sex life, really. I mean, kiss that shit goodbye. Okay, I'm not going to be so cold-hearted. Okay, maybe, or not so negative. Maybe it won't affect you like that. So for me with Latuda, the good news is that I have successfully, not sexfully, because that's not working, but I have successfully been living in recovery for 2 years. I have been mental hospital free for 2 years. I have been suicidal thought free for 2 years. And I am happy and doing the best I can in my life. And in life, not everything is about sex, even though sometimes it feels like it should be. But the point is that I'm living a normal, healthy, happy life. And I am doing really, really well. And the only reason that I'm not drugged out of my mind or still in the mental hospital is because some smart, brilliant person in Japan invented Latuda. That's right, Latuda is made by a Japanese pharmaceutical company, and let me tell you what, as soon as I make some serious money, I'm going to be going on the Japanese stock exchange and buying stock in Latuda, because I truly think it's the future of mental health medications, medications that are as high quality. And I know Latuda has side effects, and I've talked about all the negative side effects, but what I haven't talked about as much is that it allows me to live my life, and it allows me to live outside of the walls of a mental institution, and for that, I will always be grateful. So thank you, Latuda. Thank you for being in my life and allowing me the medication to be successfully in recovery.